Alright, after this I'm going to leave the map of the world alone for a while. But this part was to show you that it's important to know the maps. And one thing people will point out and try to say you don't know what you're talking about is they'll point out some random feature in geography and, stuff like that. And it's the little details that'll get you. So, last video, one of the videos in the past, I was talking about Kazakhstan, and I was talking about Turkmenistan and Afghanistan, and there's also Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and also Tajikistan. And so we go on talking about there's a caste system in India. Obviously, you know how there's darker skin on the people on the bottom for the most part, and the lighter skin people on the top, and how the migration of people had to pass through Iran and Afghanistan and Pakistan. That's why some of the oldest artifacts are there, and the Silk Road leads there, etc. So when we go to talking about China, I told you about the Ming Dynasty, the Qing Dynasty. I told you about Genghis Khan and Mongolia, and how the Mongolian Empire was huge. It was bigger than the Roman Empire, but it's not talked about as much. And how they were very good at riding horses, and nomadic people that evolved and united all the other tribes around them until they rose up, and they just kept moving quickly in lightning speed. They had a similar tactic to Hitler. I think Hitler learned from how the Mongols spread out and kind of based some of his tactics on them. So we go on to talk about Laos and the 10,000 Day War, Vietnam. You had Diem, you had Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Kennedy, Ford, Carter. All these people were involved in Vietnam. You had Kissinger and the National Security Council. You had the Tet New Year, and you had the lunar calendar, and how they did a ritualistic attack. And there was a major offensive that was downplayed, and how there was North and South Vietnamese, and it was the communists supporting one side and us supporting the losing side. Kind of like in Korea, where the communists have a little bit more of a stronghold on it. The North Korea has more power than South Korea. So it was in Vietnam, and we learned the hard way that trying to have a military intervention wouldn't work. So also there's been a lot of tragedies in places like Bangladesh and Bhutan and Nepal and Myanmar, and a lot of rapes in like Cambodia. And then you had Pol Pot, and we funded him, and he did a lot of damage in Cambodia and neighboring Laos. And of course you had the Vietnam-China War. And this is Chiang Kai-shek was a Chinese person, didn't like imperialists, didn't like people from the outside. So, the Kim Jong-un recently died, his son took over, and he made people cry from, oh, poor Kim Jong-un. Of course, there's the seas, there's the Arabian Sea, the Andaman Sea, South China Sea, East China Sea, Sea of Japan, Bay of Bengal, of course. And then you have Indonesia, Singapore, Brunei, Malaysia. And Malaysia is a very strict country, and during 9/11, they helped us bring down some of the terrorists. They caught some of them in an internet cafe and arrested them. So for the most part, from what I can tell, they're sincere about fighting terrorism. And so are some of the other Asian countries. And some of them aren't so sincere. A lot of people confuse Asia with the Pacific Islands, and it's an understandable mistake, but we're talking about the Indian Ocean here, and just like in the last one we were talking about the Atlantic Ocean and Europe and etc. So anyway, we get to what else should I talk about to help you remember this map and just cite some of my past videos. I know I'm not at 100% right now. I've been going through a lot of stress anyway, but here we go. We talk about I talked about the Persians and how Iran fits into it, and that used to be Persia, and how you had people like Xerxes and Artaxerxes and Darius and Cyrus the Great. And talk about Afghanistan, of course, about the Taliban, the 90s, Bin Laden. Pakistan, how they have the nuke, and how we were in on killing a politician there, a female politician. and how our spy got caught there. I showed you the picture in one of the other videos, and how Bin Laden, his compound, how they were hiding him out next to one of the government compounds, and the ISI is notorious for misconduct, and how they had that little conspiracy. So basically, I'm touching on all these countries all over the world, and I want to give you a chance to truly see where they are, soak it in, and try to connect with your ancestors to the migration routes that I've shown you. And it's important to note that the Japanese culture, the karate is based a lot on the African culture, even though it's all the way over there. And there's a reason for this. These people were very traditionalists. They kept the culture. So their ancient African culture stayed with them a long time. And just like the Chinese and the Tibetans and the Japanese. So in Korea, you have martial arts like Taekwondo. And the Japanese, you have Japanese karate. China, you have, of course, Kung Fu. You have the Northern style, Shaolin and Hung Gar. And you have Tai Chi as well. And, of course, you have the different factions of groups that broke up and did the Kung Fu styles. And some of them are very demanding. So basically, there's a lot of hashish being sold in places like Nepal, and they have a big crackdown on it, and it's a big deal. Recently, they had a big crackdown in Asia.